All right, guys. My guest this week is the epitome of a working actor, having starred in more than 120 movies and television shows during his 30 years in showbiz. Television shows like Kate and Alley, Civil Wars, Murder One, NYPD Blue, NCIS, This Is Us, Cop Rock, Blue Bloods, American Dreams, 24, my goodness. Everybody Hates Chris and SWAT. On the big screen, he has appeared in films like Postcards From The Edge, Camp Nowhere, Rocketman, and yes, even Goodfellas, to name a few. I'm thrilled to have this gentleman on the show this afternoon, the pride of Boonton, New Jersey, actor PETER ONORATI. Peter, first of all, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Oh, thanks for asking, Mike. Thank you.
I want to start off, Peter, and I got to ask you this. Before you became an actor, Peter, tell me if this is correct. You had a job making cold calls to people to sell calculators to people. I mean, what year was this? 1925?
Yeah, that was my first. That was my first job out of college, undergraduate. I got a job from Monroe Calculator Company, and and it was right around the time. And so I was making cold calls right around the time that calculators started to come out in the damn stationery stores, you know? So
yeah,
I'm trying
Texas Instruments must have put you out of business.
Yeah, I'm trying to sell these people a $200 calculator. They go, for $15, they buy one that does the same thing, But yeah, that was one of my first jobs out of undergraduate.
Before we get into your incredible career, because you have such a vast resume, I mean, I went through it on IMDb. You're one of those guys. I like to say that if I ever printed out your resume, I got to use more paper or more ink. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And guys like me, I'll never get any work with you guys. Anyways, Peter, for my audience, this is fabulous because I heard it and I said I got to ask him. You don't have to answer if you don't want. Can you please tell my audience and give the proper dialects and everything? Tell the story about the time your grandfather gave you the Victrola and what was in the back and what happened. If you can, if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
Sure. If you got the time.
It's a great story.
Yeah. So he had an old RCA Victrola in his cellar, and I said to him, you don't want that thing. It's in the cellar. He goes, no, that's a piece of poop. Shit. He says, that's a piece of junk. I know one you take. So I take the thing and I start restoring it. And I'm stripping it. I'm getting the works out of it and stuff. And I take off the back panel and this plastic bag falls out with 3 or 4 letters. And one has a dried flower and a picture. Now, if you come to my house in L.A., my dining room was full of family pictures. I got family pictures all the way back to my grandparents, great-grandparents. I don't know this woman in this picture, right? So I tell my mother, it was her father, and I said, hey, Ma, I got these letters, and I don't know, there's a picture and there's a flower, and they're addressed to Grandpa, right? She says, well, what was the post date? I said, I think it's like 1948. She goes, oh, that's when your grandfather had an affair and got kicked out of the house, right? So I said, well, leak the story to him, right? So we're having Easter, and the Italian meals, they have big, and every Italian meal has an intermezzo, right? So, so I said, leak the story to him. So he comes up to me, I think it was Easter dinner, and I was living in Boonton, the same place as my parents at the time. And he goes, hey, Pete, maybe if we get a break at the dinner, I come down your house. I'll look at them letters. And I said, sure, we can look at the letters, right? And he knew damn well we were going to get a break in the dinner. So we go down my house. I pull out the letters, and he's looking at them. He goes, no, this is not mine. I said, it says Donato Scaresi all over the front. He goes, oh, yeah, they're mine. So I said, well, what happened? Well, he was a shoemaker or a cobbler in Denville, New Jersey. And the next town over was Dover, New Jersey. So he was planning to go to Italy and on a vacation. So he says, well, I was planning to go to Italy one time on a vacation. And this woman come to the store from Dover. And I say I was go to Italy, and she tell me she have a daughter which live in Bologna. You know? It's a daughter which live in Bologna. He said, but so I was passed by Bologna on my way, and he was going from Rome to Naples. That's like going to Vegas to get to Seattle, right? He says, but I was passed by over there, and he says, and I look up at this girl, and I was thinking I was not married. But I was. He says, but I was. I said, no shit, you are. He goes, well, he says, I said, so what happened? He says, well, your grandmother, she find the letters and she throw me out of the house. And I go to Florida. I live with my friend Vern a couple of months, and then I come home, right? Now, my mother says she remembers her mother calling the woman from Dover, New Jersey, and saying in Italian, holding the flower up to the phone, saying, "You see this dry the flower? That's the way your daughter gonna dry up before she get my husband." Click.
I can relate to this. That's why I laugh so hard.
Oh my God, he was my mother's father. Donato was just an amazing guy. He really was. He was. I used to introduce him. I said, "This is my grandfather. He's a shoemaker," and he goes, "I'm no shoemaker. I'm a cobbler. Shoemaker, it's an insult." I go, "Oh, well, you've been a shoemaker all your life. Now you're a cobbler." Okay, you know.
You didn't need improv, Peter. You had your grandfather. You were all set. You had the
that's
timing.
Right. You know,
comedic
that's
timing.
Right. That's right.
That's beautiful. Sorry, I want to get that story in. It was hilarious. So you said you did Kate and Alley. Your first role was what, in Kate and Alley?
Yeah, my first, continual TV role was a guest starring in Kate and Alley, the last season of it actually, and here's an interesting thing. I mean, we can go on with the story if you want, but just to tell you the logistics, the last shooting of the last episode of Kate and Alley, it was on Thursday night in front of an audience in the Ed Sullivan Theater. Now, my wife and I were already pregnant. We had gotten married in June. And we moved out to LA, and I was flying back to do Kate and Alley to finish up. And so my son was due. It was March. And by the way, my son was born 9 months and 1 day after our wedding. So all my wife's Methodist relatives, wiped their brow. So I'm supposed to get on a plane that Friday, which was it was St. Patrick's Day, and you know what happens in New York and in Boston, all the streets and stuff on St. Patty's Day. But I got a call back for Scorsese for Goodfellas in Rockefeller Center at 12:30, and I had a 2:30 flight out of JFK to come back to LA to see my son's birth. Of
course.
So I got to take it, right? So now at that time is when Scorsese started. He started hiring for small roles like I had. He started hiring real mob guys or cops that chased mob guys, right? So the casting person gave us all the same, scene to read, same sides, and they would just pick a role for you if they like you, right? So I walk into this office. Now, keep in mind, I got to get to JFK in 2 hours for my son's birth.
Absolutely.
I walk in, and there's all these guys with silver sweatsuits and patent leather sneakers and cigars.
Sergio Tacchini's.
Right? Yeah. And they look at me. One guy looks at me and he goes, "What are you reading for?" And I go, "I got the signs for Sonny Bamboo." He goes, "You know him?" I go, "No, I don't know him." He goes, "I know him. You don't look nothing like him." I went, "Well, that's what they gave me." He goes, "All right, good luck, kid."
God bless you. They always say God bless you too.
Yeah, God bless you, kid. God bless you, kid. And so now I'm going into the thing, and now you got to remember, I'm only in the business for like 2 or 3 years at the most, and my habit is to make the meeting mine. When I was working for McCall's and I went into the big ad agencies and stuff, I made the meeting mine, right? So that was my habit. So I'm going in for Scorsese, and I'm like, how do I do this? How do I try and take something of control of this meeting? So I made up a story. And when I walked in, because my grandfather that I just told you about, his last name is the exact same spelling as Scorsese, but without the S. Scorsese is his name, right? So I start the meeting I said to Scorsese, I said, first, before we do this, I got to ask you if we're related. I said, because I said to my grandfather, Donato Scorsese, I said, I'm going to read for the big director, Martin Scorsese, today. And my grandfather said, I think so. We have a cousin at one time, which taking the S out of the name, right? So now Scorsese goes, really? Really? Because we can't find our relatives. I went, oh, man, I'm screwed now, right? So I said, well, where are you from? He goes, Sicily. I go, no freaking way. We're not Sicilian. He goes, where are you? I go, we're Napolitans. He goes, you guys drink too early in the morning. You want to do this? I go, yeah, let's do it. So we read the side.
Siciliani, you're right.
Yeah.
That's so you get the part and talk about filming. I mean, the scene itself.
Well, there was a couple scenes. The one scene that's the biggest, that's sort of iconic in that movie, is where they throw me to the lions. But it was where they're beating me up first. It's kind of funny because they take a shot. Now you know this because you've done some filming. They're taking the master shot and they're punching. So Scorsese comes over and he says, "Okay, Bobby's gonna punch you twice. No, Bobby's gonna smash your head into the front seat twice. Then when you come up, you say your first line, right?" I went, "Great." So he goes, "Action." Boom, boom, boom. 3 times, cut. Scorsese comes over and I said, we could lose the line. We don't need to lose. I don't want to tell him, De Niro can't count. You said 2 and he smashed me 3 times, So, I don't want to say anything, And so they goes, no, I want the line. So we did it. We got that done. Now they're punching me from the front. And from filming, you got to sell the punch. So you snap your head back, but at the time I was studying martial arts, and, with every violent action, you release a sound, and I didn't want to ki because that's not right? So they're punching me. And I swear, Mike, it was so embarrassing. I go back to like 3rd grade. Every time they hit me, I went, "Toosh, toosh, toosh." They go, "Cut." The sound man comes over. He goes, "You don't have to do that. We can put that sound in later." I went, "Oh, God, I'm so embarrassed."
I should have moved the kid with the sweatsuits on.
Yeah. But it was a good experience, and every damn take, De Niro got out of the car. He went over to Scorsese. They started talking. They started laughing, and they come back with something different to do,
Yeah, for my audience that don't remember, that you were in the phone booth, and you calling supposedly your sister. These guys mean business. These guys mean business, and obviously,
and they throw me to the lions.
Yeah. How many days was that? How many days work did you have?
It was, you know what? It was really only 3 days, but I believe at that time it ended up, I had to stay for 3 weeks because I came back from LA because I believe Ray Liotta's mom passed away in the middle of it. So they slowed down or cut production off or something. So they paid me for 3 weeks to keep me in New York, but it was really only about 3 days of shooting.
Oh, interesting. Peter, I've heard you say that I have a lot of actors that listen to this show. It's all streamed everywhere. I heard you say, tell my audience, what are the 3 people that you're supposed to try to be when you go into an audition?
Well, you have to be first yourself, the person, in my case, Peter, right? Then if you have a career under your belt, you have to be this actor who knows how to speak in the room with producers and directors and stuff like that, the sort of political face. And then finally, the thing that you came there to do, the character that you want to play and the work that you've done. You have to negotiate those 3 people. I've been in rooms where, for producers that were on my first shows out here, Cop Rock and Civil Wars. And they're like, hey, how are the kids? How are the twins and blah, blah.
Right.
And I'm like, and I don't really want to go there. I'm prepared to do my audition, and then they'll go to, oh, I just saw you on this, and that was a great what you did there, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for, sometimes you're lucky enough you go right in and you execute your work, but really, truly, I have said, even when I'm coaching people, I say, there are 3 things that you have to prepare. Along with your work on the sides and the character, and those are the other 2 things besides your work, besides the part that you want to play.
So Peter, I'm a producer. Okay, I have a script. I hire the director, and now I'm going to cast the cast. If I'm trying to hire Peter Onorati on my film, I mean, obviously before the COVID, but what is the protocol nowadays? Is it all video stuff? And I mean, in other words, what do you prefer? Do you like to do video auditions, or do you like to, come into a casting age?
I hate doing auditions at my home and
really?
Submitting. I hate this turn in the business because the freshness and the energy that you get going into an audition.
Right.
And all the work that you put together for that moment. Now I have my wife filming me or a friend filming me and reading me the lines. And, I know there's a performance there, but it doesn't feel like a performance.
Yeah, but you want that feedback from a casting director.
I do. It's like being a stand-up comic, I mean, when I used to do some stand-up comic with my partner, it was, you need that in the room. I need that room energy. It's something, and people can adjust you. I had an audition for a big movie that went to South Africa, and they wanted me to Zoom it, right? So I set the whole thing up. For some reason, they didn't show up on time. I waited 15 minutes, half an hour. I'm like, the hell with this, you just, it's one thing if I'm waiting in a room and their actors come and you're late, but nobody's coming online. I don't know if I've got the thing done right.
Right.
So I just filmed it myself and I sent it in and I told my agents, I said, listen, that's not the way to do this, and so, of course I didn't get it, which would have been great because I would have been in South Africa at the same time as my son, but it's too late.
Wow. Oh. Peter, real quick, can you, I mean, so one day you're walking through the Fox commissary.
Yeah. How do you know these stories?
I don't know, man. Some people know how to build carburetors in 20 minutes. This is what I do. I don't know what it is. I'm just, I love it. I'm passionate about it. I've been doing it. My story is pretty funny. It's, I work for the post office.
Yeah.
And I just walked into a radio station and asked them if I can do a show. And they said, what do you do? This was 7 years ago. They said, what do you do? I says, I'm the Hollywood kid. I go, I know everything about films. I mean, I don't know everything, but I'm a big movie geek. And they said, all right, put something together. We'll come up with it. And so I've been, I'll tell you another funny story. So I've had, I don't want to brag, but I've had everybody on my show. Over 300 people.
I saw the list. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had some great people like yourself. I did Larry King's last radio interview. He was great. Anyways, I've had these big performers come on, for a little guy like me. Yeah. So I tell my wife, she's like, oh, you got a show tonight? I go, yeah. So I do this from home. My producer's at home. Great. One of those deals. Yeah. So she goes, who you got coming on today? Oh, I don't know. I got Paul Sorvino. Oh, okay. Oh, have some fun. Have fun. So my daughter, my daughter's 15. Daddy, who do you got on today? I don't know. I got Dina Martin on. Oh, okay, Daddy. Have some fun. She goes, so today, God strike me dead. So today, I come home from work. They go, Daddy. I go, I got to do a show tonight, guys, so be quiet. She goes, who do you got on today? I got this guy, Peter Onorati. He's in This Is Us. And I know I hit him good. She goes, They go, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. This is who? Which one is it? I said, Stanley, the guy, the father. Oh, my God. Oh, they went crazy. They went ballistic. I could have told my Scorsese, De Niro, and Pesci on a Zoom call, and they'd be like, oh, have fun, Dad. You know what I mean? But I told them you, and they went nuts. That's a true story.
I know. That show, man, that show just taps into everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great show. A true story. I got De Niro on tonight. Oh, have fun, Dad. Oh, have fun. Nothing. I get nothing. Not zero.
Well, you know what? I consider myself the low rent De Niro.
Yeah, well, you're probably a better interview, obviously, than De Niro, because I asked Larry King that. He said, "Yeah, it was a little rough. It was a little rough."
Yeah.
Anyways, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so you're walking through the commissary. What happens?
At Fox, right? When we're on Cop Rock with Jimmy McDaniels, who just called me the other day out of the blue, and was on Cop Rock, and my friend Bill Thomas, God rest him, he just passed away. So there's a fork in the pathway, and one goes into the regular commissary, and one goes in to the the private dining where sometimes you would eat if you had a meeting with Bochco or something. So just past that fork towards the private area is Mel Brooks, like holding court with like four guys, right?
Wow.
So he's standing there with his arms crossed and his hands under his armpits, and I said to McDaniels and to Bill Thomas, I said, like out of the side of my mouth, I go, "That's Mel Brooks. That's Mel Brooks. Let's go that way. Let's go in that way," right? So we go by, and then you can picture it. We got our eyes strained to the side, so we're looking at him, and he looks and he goes, "Mel Brooks, fellas, very big name, very big name." And McDaniels goes, "Mel Blanc?" He goes, No, Blanc is dead. Brooks. I'm like, oh, geez, man, it's Mel Brooks,
That's a beautiful story. I want to make sure I get that one in. Peter, in 1998, you do a movie called Shelter about the Greek mafia, and one of my favorite character actors, Charles Durning. He was in The Quiet Boy. He's obviously Dog Day Afternoon. I mean, did you guys work together on the set that day, or did you get a chance to pick his brain?
Oh yeah, no, Charlie.
Wow.
You give me goosebumps, man.
Wow.
First of all, that's one of the best roles I ever did because I got to do things that only De Niro and other people get to do at that level. I did an accent. I spoke in a foreign language. It was really a great movie for me. Secondly, and more important, I got to spend time with Charlie Durning, who, by the way, I don't know if you know, is a major war hero.
Yes, stormed the beaches. Okay. He stormed the beaches of Normandy.
Stormed the beaches in the engineers company that only about 300 people and only 50 made it, and then was trapped under on a reconnaissance mission, was trapped under the floorboards while the Germans occupied a town and then left, dug himself out, and went back to his unit.
Did he talk about it?
A little bit. A little bit. That's all. He would just tell the story. He tried to make it humorous. He's got bayonet scars on his neck. He was in hand-to-hand combat. He's got bayonet scars on his neck. And I tell you what, he'll never know this, but he gave me one of the greatest acting lessons I've ever had. I did The Iceman Cometh with Pacino, and I got a lesson there. But this was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. We have a sit-down scene in that movie. It's a great scene, and Kurtwood Smith is in it as well, another fantastic actor. And so actors of my generation, and I only include myself because I'm that age and it's my time period, but there are so many more that started earlier and more accomplished. But actors of my generation, they've adopted this thing about doing the opposite choice, do the opposite of what people expect, and that's always good for your process, but it's not always good for the movie. There's a particular actor that I have a problem with that does that all the time. He's a big time actor, and he spoiled a lot of movies because his opposite choice didn't work for the movie, right? So I'm in this scene with Charlie Durning, and he has a line to me. His line is, "We have enough to put you and your brother away for 80 lifetimes. We have you," right? So we're rehearsing the scene, and then we do the first take, and Charlie Durning leans in and he goes, "We have enough to put you and your brother away for 80 lifetimes." And he reaches over the table and clenches his fist and he goes, "We have you." And then they cut, right? And I'm thinking, what the hell is that? That's the most stereotypical move that you could ever do for that line. Charlie Durning is a great actor. Why is he doing blah, blah, blah? Because I have this opposite choice mindset, right?
Right.
And then he does another take. "We have you. We have you." And all of a sudden, the organic nature of him squeezing his hand at that moment just starts to live more than the entire film itself. And all of a sudden, I get this lesson that says it doesn't matter if you're doing a stereotypical move or if you're doing the move that is opposite of what everybody's thinking. If it's organic and you mean it, it works.
Right. Wow.
And I was in awe of him, you know?
Yeah, no. Anytime I see somebody look through someone's resume and I see they work with Charles Durning, I always try to highlight that because he was one of the greats, in my opinion.
And a great dancer. Did you know that?
Yeah. I thought I heard that. I think I heard that. It's a research.
Terrific.
Imagine that.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Oh,
That's amazing.
And here's a great story. Let me give you one quick story.
Go ahead. Go.
About Durning. Here's what you know how he got in the business?
No.
Okay. Here's how he gets in the business. He leaves. I think he was born in New York. He leaves New York and he goes to work on a slag heap outside of Pittsburgh, or in some coal area of Pennsylvania, right? Erie, whatever it was. And he's living there and he's not liking it. He hates it. So he moves up to Syracuse, which at the time was still had vaudeville stage there.
Wow.
And he starts sweeping floors at this vaudeville stage, right? And there's this stand-up comic who kills all the time, but he's a real ass. He's just a nasty guy, right? And one day, he doesn't show up for his set, and the owner of the theater is beside himself, and Charlie says, I can do his material. And the owner says, really? He goes, sure, I can do it. He goes out and does this stand-up comics material and kills, right? And so then, war breaks out, and he fudges his age and goes off to war. And when he came out, I think under the GI Bill, he studied acting. But that's his first time on stage.
Amazing.
He's doing somebody else's material.
It's incredible how stuff happens. I mean, I try to really mine deep with these stories when my people come on my show, and I don't want people like, hey, so what made you want to become an actor? They get that all day long, But I try to hit them with something. So I could be wrong, but were you up for the Buscemi role in The Sopranos? Were you a finalist?
Well, here's what happened. I would say I was a finalist. I can't say for sure, but they didn't even put that role out. They only saw me and Steve Buscemi.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's what I was told by agents and managers and everybody else. They're not putting this role out to casting. I didn't even know they were seeing Buscemi. I just met with them out here. And here's something that's very interesting. The scenes that I saw first were where Tony Soprano says to Tony B, he says, "Oh, you look good. You look like you've been working out, And Tony B says, "Well, what else you got to do in prison but work out?" Well, they got rid of all those lines when Buscemi got
He's a real.
So that's why I feel like that it was just the two of us. And Buscemi had a relationship with HBO anyway, directing and stuff like that. And soon after he did Empire. So, I came close. I was up for Richie Aprile on The Sopranos. I got read for Tony Soprano, but I heard some things later on about David Chase, who grew up in the next town over from me in New Jersey, in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, right next to Boonton. The rich kids grew up in Mountain Lakes. And he just didn't see a mob guy looking like me. He saw them looking like James,
Wow. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of mob guys, thanks for setting that up. How do you end up with a painting done by Henry Hill?
It's so interesting. It's so funny. So I went with a friend of mine to get some, sort of headshots and other pictures, like a picture from SWAT made because I had some autograph requests. And I walk in, the guy looks at me and like, "Oh, you?" Yeah. I said, "Yeah, yeah." And my friend was with me, Jerry Dell, and Jerry said, he was in Goodfellas. The guy goes, "Oh, what? and he says, he was the thrown to the lion. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, Henry Hill painted a bunch of scenes from Goodfellas, and Henry had died by then. It was only a couple years ago. And so I said, yeah, all right, So I went home and I came back to pick up the pictures, and he had printed out this one picture of the scene from Goodfellas where a guy's being thrown to the lions, which is my scene, right? And I thought, oh, this is crazy, right? So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go online and see if I can buy the original. So I went online and I bought the original Henry Hill painting of them throwing me over the thing. And I said, this doesn't look like me. The painting looks like a third grader did it, but it's just it's just fantastic. It's a great story.
It's not a Picasso. It's not a Picasso.
No. It's just Picasso.
It's a nice, great, funny story. Peter, you obviously played Jeff Mumford for 27 episodes on SWAT. Big hit. You're obviously not like a 25, 35-year-old kid anymore. I mean, how do you feel about playing the older character nowadays?
Well, first of all, the character's name is Jack Mumford. And the only reason I make sure that I correct that is because while I was doing it, my father-in-law, Jack Collins, passed away. And I told them to name the character Jack, and they did. You'll see. You'll see it. Yes, it says Jeff. It says Jeff online, but you'll see in this next episode. I just did an episode of SWAT. It should be coming out pretty soon, and they call me Jack. So it was the first time I ever played the old man, and I loved it. I really loved it. I wish it could have gone on longer than the first season. I played the second season, and after they retired me, but. It was great because I'll tell you what, it got me, it gave me a goal for my training. I keep working out, I keep training all these years, and it's always good to have a goal, and when you're going on camera with guys who are in their 20s and 30s, and Shamar, who's in great shape in his 40s, you need to show up, All right,
how about the stunts? Do you do any of your own stunts?
I did them all. There's a great episode for me where I do this fight. It's about it takes a place on a balcony over about 20 or 30 feet, and then we fall down the stairs. I didn't fall down the stairs, but I did all the fighting, all that stuff, and I loved it, man. It's what it's what a kid who wants to grow up and be an actor does. He wants to be a cowboy. He wants to be a cop. He wants to fight and shoot guns and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I had a stunt man. But I said, no, I'll do it, and I actually put some of the training films up on, I think it was Facebook, but It was great. It was just wonderful to do.
Peter, obviously I said you such a huge resume, so many great shows. We can be here for hours to talk about all your roles. But when you're doing a role, let's say you do a role next week, whatever his name is, Joe. I mean. Yeah. And you read the script, obviously you start making a character from it. I mean, do you mine from some of the other characters into the new one? You know what I'm saying? Do you take some traits?
I don't mind from other characters. I mine from my life, which has appeared in some of the other characters. But okay. I don't anything that comes out that might be from another character does not come from that character. It comes from my life experience that I ended up putting into that character before. Right. I play a lot of cops. My uncle Pat De Palma was the chief of police in my hometown in Boonton, so I've been around cops all my life. My father was a mason contractor, and a general contractor in Boonton, New Jersey, and who got approached, by the mob a couple of times. And he said, you know what? I'm just a little guy. What do you guys want? So I've been around those guys, those people, and I have a great catalog in my head of every joy and every pain that I've experienced, and I get to use those to create a life on film or on stage. It's a great thing, man. And so if anything feels or looks like it comes from something else, that's only because it comes from me, you know?
Right.
One of the things I like to do, and I'm doing it in This Is Us, is I'm doing accents. I'm doing this. I went to school. My undergraduate degree was at Lycoming College, and I went to school with people from all over Pennsylvania. From Philly to Erie, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh, and southern Pennsylvania near the coal areas, and those accents. And in fact, one of my good friends in college, who just retired from being a federal appeals court judge, is a guy named Tom Vanaski. Tom and I played football together, and he ended up going on to be a lawyer and being a federal appeals court judge appointed by Obama. But he came from Shamokin, Pennsylvania. This is a coal town where they had nothing. It's like Texas football. They had nothing but football. Nothing. Friday night, under the lights. You know, these guys all had mesh jerseys with their name on them. And I came from New Jersey. It wasn't that big a deal in New Jersey. We didn't have all that stuff, when I played. And, so I had all that culture. And I've been able a couple of times to be able to do accents of all these guys that I spent so much time with and made such deep friendships with, Yeah,
it's like osmosis. I find that sometimes I do, get as a guy from my club, everybody came through the door as a character. And, as an actor, you try to take a little thing from everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? I learned this mostly when I had my kids. I learned the concept that you can learn from everybody. Right. You can learn from babies. You can learn from toddlers. You can learn from people who you politically hate. You can learn from everybody,
Right. Yeah, you're like a sponge.
And I'll tell you something. I don't think if I hadn't become an actor, I don't know how long it would have taken me to discover that, because as an actor, you have to surrender your ego. If you want to work, if you want to do things, you have to surrender everything. You can't take anything personally, and, as a guinea in New Jersey, son of a contractor, bodybuilder guy, I wasn't ready to listen to anybody. Once I became an actor, I became a sponge and I listened to everybody,
Acting is a very difficult business to make a living. Never mind working a couple days here and there.
Sure.
But I like to use the old joke. I don't know if you ever heard the joke. Did you know the difference between a large cheese pizza and a family of? No, wait a minute. What's the difference between an actor and a large cheese pizza?
Mm-mm.
A large cheese pizza can feed a family of 4.
I have this quote hanging up in my office here. It's George Burns, right?
Yeah, love it.
George Burns said, with acting, the most important thing is honesty. If you can fake that, you got it made.
That's so true. So true. It
right?
Really is. It's so true. Peter, this has been great. I want to wrap this up, but what possessed you to tell Julia Roberts that she would be great for selling ads in magazines?
I didn't know she wasn't Julia Roberts then. She was just a beautiful woman. And listen, when I worked at McCall's, when I did that movie, I took off just to do that movie. I worked with 15 women. 2 were my superiors and 13 were my level or subordinates. So I got more peanuts birthday cakes than you can imagine. So so I thought right away, I went, wow. I said, you could be the greatest ad person in all of New York City.
Who knew? Peter, what do you work? I know you were still on This Is Us, but what are you working on now? You got new projects coming down the pipeline?
I got, I just went today to ADR, This Is Us, because the episode is coming out Tuesday. No, right now I'm working on, I wrote a play over 30 years. I think if I put the time back to back, it took me 2 years. About Italian brother and sister come together in their house where their fathers just died. You send me an email and I'll send it to you. You can read it. But I submitted my wife and I are members of the Actors Studio.
Oh, wow.
And that was in the acting unit. But 2 years ago, I submitted this play to the studio, and they admitted me to the playwright directors unit, and they have been workshopping it as well. So I would love to see this thing off Broadway someplace someday. And you'll like it. You're being Italian, and it goes through everything. It's called Under Construction: A Play in Seven Sacraments.
Yeah, I'd love to read it. Send it over to me. I forget your handler's name, but I'll send her my email.
Okay, so that's what I've been doing. I've been just buttoning up all my writing projects, and I got a couple pitches coming up soon, I hope. And I wrote a kids book that I have a publisher for. But so in terms of TV and film, I'm not doing anything right now except cleaning up the episodes I did already. I'll probably have to go in for SWAT, and
Maybe, this might be a good idea. Maybe you should do a one-man play or a one-man stage show of your grandfather.
You know how many people have said that?
Really?
I think you're right. I'm trying to get my wife to help me write it. It's so hard.
Yeah, with the character, the way he walks and the accent. Tremendous.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah, it's a great storyteller.
Peter, this has been great, and I thank you for your time. And so, because you guys, someone like yourself, I mean, you inspire so many Italian Americans like myself, to get into the industry and try to break in, and because it is difficult to get your foot in the door. And I've been using sledgehammers, but nothing's working. It must be a metal door. I don't know.
Well,
what it is.
listen, especially now it's tough. My son is becoming an actor. He's a great voice talent. He's got some voiceover work, but it's tough now. The business has changed, and I'm not even sure how to negotiate it.
Who's your favorite actor?
Wow. Well, I used to love Robert Duvall.
Wow.
And De Niro. Duvall because he has such a diversified and quality career. But I have to say, right now, I think one of the greatest actors out there is Christian Bale.
Yeah, he really gets deep.
That guy does everything,
Yeah, the fighter, he lost like 80 pounds, 100 pounds.
Yeah. And, De Niro gained all the weight for, actually have a
Raging Bull. Yeah, Raging Bull.
And I mean, I always loved De Niro. But once you work with De Niro and you talk to him, you realize something about him. And the same thing with Pacino, by the way. There haven't been too many times when they have played characters that aren't very much like them,
Right.
Or a big part of them, or somebody that they know. To me, De Niro's best performance is King of Comedy because it's the one that's so far away from him.
Sandra Bernhard. Yeah, Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Great film. Great film.
It's not. That's the one that's the furthest away from who De Niro is. That's just my opinion,
Pumpkin. What was his name?
Yeah, Rupert Pumpkin.
Rupert, there you go, Rupert. All right. That would have bothered me all night. One more question, Pete. Before I let you go. If you're walking through the living room and there's your favorite movies on the television, you stop what you're doing. What movie is it?
Wow. You know what? I'll say right now, The Natural.
Oh, Robert Redford. Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
For me, it's a mad world. I don't know why.
I love that movie. I try to show that to my kids. My kids.
Me too. I do the same thing. I tell my kids, just give me 2 hours. Just sit on the couch with your father. Sit on the couch for 2 hours. That's all I ask.
2 hours.
It's impossible. It's impossible, Peter. I'm telling you the truth.
Under the big W.
It's a big W, I tell you. My favorite. My aunt used to call from down the street to call my mother. Antonietta, stai, it's a mad the world. They're funny. All the other funny people in it. And I never forgot
what?
that.
That's the one-man show I want to do. I want to play Durante.
Jimmy Durante. Wow. Oh, yeah.
That's
Have you ever seen the movie? Speaking of Rupert, you ever seen a movie called The Great Rupert with Terry Moore, Jimmy Durante?
No.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great Christmas movie. You can get it on Amazon. Amazon Prime. It's free. I saw it. I did some research. Terry Moore's in it. Jimmy Durante. It's tremendous. About a squirrel. It's tremendous. IMDb it. I think you get a kick out of it. It's called The Great Rupert.
All right.
All right, Peter. This has been great. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll chat soon. This has been fun.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And get to me somehow. Give me an email, and I'll send you that play.
Yeah, I'll do it tonight. All right, Peter. Thank you so much. God bless and continued success, man.
Same to you.
Ciao.
God bless.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. If you like this interview, please be sure to click that subscribe button for me and click the like button as well. Some great interviews on here. Be sure to scroll through and enjoy the Hollywood murder mysteries, celebrity interviews, and mini reels as well.